Okay, everybody, welcome. Welcome to session 6 to Assuring Quality, Satisfying the Direct Loan Requirement, 34 CFR 685.300, little b9. My name is Holly Langer Evans. I'm with the U.S. Department of Education. I'm with the Federal Loan School Support Team. And with me is my colleague, Michael Cagle. He's not listed, but I recruited him because we have always trained together. And we used to work together on the Experimental Sites and Quality Assurance team. I worked on that team for 21 and a half years. So it's kind of, I miss him. So he said, sure, I'll come and help you, Holly, absolutely. So I really appreciate that. And prior to working on that team with the Department of Education, I worked for 2 years as a program reviewer. So in my entirety, I worked with the department 25 years as of November 2nd of this year, my silver anniversary, thank you. I'm pretty happy about that. I have the silver hair that goes with that, but I've been dyeing that for a very long time. So that's pretty cool. And prior to that, I was a financial aid administrator like yourself. I was a director of financial aid at a school in New Hampshire for quite some time. And I also was a senior assistant director at a school in Massachusetts. So I certainly know what it's like to be in your seat. And I'm very, very sensitive to that. So when I do and speak about this session today, I'm going to address it from your perspective. And I'm going to give you helpful hints, and I'll let you know when it's regulatory and what my recommendation would be. And I'll let you know what that is, and I'll clearly define that. So let's move on to slide number 2. And we're going to talk about the law, we're going to talk about the regulation, and we're going to talk about the latest guidance that we provided. And if you look at that, it was an electronic announcement that we gave you in 2013. So I thought it was about time that we revisited this and remind you what the requirement is. How many of you really knew that this regulation was out there? How many of you knew that? Just put your hands up really, really high. So some of you did. How many of you didn't know? Okay. Well, I want to reassure you that I really think most of you are doing this. You just don't know perhaps how to document it so that you know how to communicate it to your auditor or your program reviewer. And my job today is to make sure that you do that correctly. And so that pressure is off of you when they ask you. So you're going to be able to do that at the end of today's session. I'll make sure that you're successful. And then we're going to talk about what is available to you as far as what reports that you're going to need to run to make this requirement, to meet this requirement. There's an array of reports, array of tools that you can make available to meet this requirement. And there's not any one particular one that you need to run. You actually have the ability to choose. And we're going to talk about that. And then I'm going to talk about what you need to do to document for this requirement. And then I'm going to talk about the resources that are available to you. Are you ready for that? Okay. This session, no matter how many times I practiced it, and Michael can attest to this, I practice each and every one of my sessions. And I practice them many, many times. And no matter how many times I practice this, it takes about 40 minutes. So we'll have time for questions. You'll see that there's podiums. You can go up to the podium and ask any questions that you like. And if we get done early, guess what? You get out early. Would you like that? I think you would. You're in the happiest place on earth. I think you have time to have some fun. So let's do that. This is not complicated. This is not hard. I know you can do this. So let's get on to slide number 3. Let's look at the definition and let's look at the background. The Higher Education Amendment of 1965 as amended, section 454, little a4, says you should have a quality assurance process in place. And you might say, Holly, it says should. Why do I have to do it? Well, we got very smart and said, we have a regulation. And we have a regulation 34 CFR 685-300, little b9, that says you must. Okay? That's what we got you at. You must have a quality assurance process in place. And we then provided you guidance better guidance than what we had earlier, November 13th, 2013, that really does give you some good guidance on how to do that. How many have read this electronic announcement? Give me your hand. Okay, not too many of you. So you're going to go out to IFAP, and you are going to print this when you go back to your office. Promise me. How many of you are going to print this? Absolutely all of you. It's really going to tell you what you need to do, okay? It's not hard. It really isn't. It's not complicated. It's a good electronic announcement, and my suggestion is you're going to print it and you're going to put it in your policies and procedures. How many of you have direct loan policies and procedures? All of you. And how many of you are new schools? Do I have some new schools here? I don't have any new schools. Okay, well, that's great. So all of you are going to have your policies and procedures. That's wonderful. So let's move on to slide number 4. A quality assurance process really is cyclical, and it's really all about your direct loan operations. And it's really about making sure you have your policies and procedures in place because you want to provide the best possible process for your students for direct loans, and you want to make sure you're in Title IV compliance, and you want to have continuous improvement happening for your loans. And really, it is all about self-assessment of your policies and procedures. You heard this morning when Cynthia Hammond talked about you need to make sure your reporting is correct and accurate when you report to COD. You need to make sure your reporting for your COD, for your disbursements, and for your reconciliation is accurate. Are you making sure that's happening? What reports are you running to make sure this is happening? And we're going to talk about the reports that you can run or should be running to make sure that's happening. And that's really very key to your quality assurance process. And we're going to look at the reports that you could be running to make sure that's happening. Because in your policies and procedures, how many of you are continually, or at least annually, looking at your policies and procedures and updating them? Absolutely. So you do have a process in place. So what we need to make sure that one of the things you're going to add to your policies and procedures when you go back, I recommend you do this. You do not have to do this. Nothing in the law says you need to do this. But you should be writing down your law and the regulation that a quality assurance process is required. Doesn't that make sense? Absolutely. That lets the reviewer and the auditor know that you know this regulation is in place. The next thing we're going to talk about is identifying perhaps some of the reports that you need to be running to make sure that your reports for dispersing and for reconciliation is happening accurately, okay? So let's take a look, and we're going to see what those might be in just a few moments. But on slide number 5, I just want to make sure that you understand that the quality assurance process is different from the quality assurance program. The quality assurance program, the program that I used to work in for 21 and a half years, ended at the end of the 2016-17 award year. And that program was a program that talked about verification, coming up with alternative verification processes. That's different than from the quality assurance process for direct loans. Do I have any QA program? Any QA schools here? Oh, raise your hand so I can see you. Hello, what's that? Past QA schools. Thanks, Mike, for reminding me. I miss them. So let's move on to slide number 6. So really with the quality assurance process, you need to provide evidence that you have a QA process in place. So what do we mean by evidence? You should have you're not required to mention it in your policies and procedures, but I don't know how else you would do it. I really don't. So you really should have in your policies and procedures evidence of a quality assurance process. Having a policy and procedures for direct loans is really a big part, in my mind, that you have a QA process in place. It shows that you have a way of managing your direct loan operations, that you have a place of talking about dispersing.
Are we on slide 5 or slide 6?
Oh, excuse me, we're on slide 6. Keep me in line, thank you. We're on slide number 6.
We're a team here.
We are a team, thank you. And we're talking about making sure we have evidence that we have a QA process in place. And we're talking about making sure that we are on target and making sure that we are reviewing our reporting and our dispersing, and our reconciliation. And we should show that we are doing all of those three things and that we are reviewing those processes, and when we find a problem, that we're fixing them. And we want to make sure we're showing evidence that that's happening in our policies and procedures. Now, you do not have to report that in any type of formal way to the Department of Education, except you need to have that at your own institution. Okay, so when a program reviewer, an auditor comes to you and asks you, and I'm going to show you what those questions are at the end of the presentation, that you can answer that question. And hopefully you can show them your procedures as to how you're doing that and what your operations are. So let's go on to slide number 7. Now we're going to talk about the electronic announcement that's out in 2013 that you all promised me that you're going to print out when you get back to your office. And this electronic announcement talks about the different ways that you can meet this requirement, the different reports that you can run that can help you demonstrate that you are accurately reporting to the department about your direct loans, that you are accurately doing your reconciliation, okay, and that you're also dispersing accurately, and that you have reports to demonstrate that you're doing that, and if you find a problem, you have a way of fixing the problem. You have that cyclical process that shows that when you find there's something wrong, you're going to fix it. You're all doing that, right? I told you, I know you have something already in place. It's about how you're proving it to the department that it's in place and articulating it to the department that you have it in place. So now let's move to slide number 8. Again, it's all about, in the electronic announcement, about reporting, and reporting's all about timeliness, which was Cynthia Hammond was talking about. Are you reporting timely within those 15 days? Are you dispersing within the 3 days? If you're making changes to a loan, are you reporting it in 15 days? Are you reconciling monthly? You know that's a regulation. How are you doing that? How can you show us that you're doing that? What reports are you using to do that? And let's move on to slide number 9. Now you might say to me, Holly, why can't you just tell me what reports to run and be done with it? You really don't want me to tell you what to do. Really, you don't. Why? Because all of you are different. Your populations are different. Your schools are different. The software you use is different. I could talk to you, I bet you everybody here uses a different. How many people use PeopleSoft? How many use Ellucian? Right? Everybody uses different software. And you might have your own reports that you would prefer to use, right? Then maybe using what we might recommend in COD. We have COD reports you might want to use. How many run COD reports? See, some of you like to use the COD reports. So we're going to talk about some of these reports. You might want to use some of our reports. You might want to use some of your software reports. You might want to use the FSA assessments. How many use the FSA assessments? Excellent, I love the FSA assessments, and we're going to go out and visit that today. There are different products that you can use and different tools you can use to meet this requirement. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You have the power. You can choose what it is that you want to use and let us know. You have a lot of flexibility to meet this requirement. And let's move on to slide number 10. Again, just what I have just mentioned. You can use COD reports. You can use your own software reports. You can use the FSA assessments. You can develop your own reports. Do any of you have people in your office that love to run Excel reports to do your reconciliation or checking your disbursements? Yeah, some of you are very fortunate to have that. I could never do that. Oh my goodness. But some of you have your own technicians that love to do that. You can develop your own reports to do that. As long as you can show what it is that you're measuring and show them the documentation, and if you find a problem that you're fixing it, you're great. You're good to go. And documentation is the important thing. You can show them. If they were asked, show me how you run that report, show me. You're using it, great. Run that report for me, and you can. You're good to go. Life is good. So let's move on to slide number 11. We're going to talk about it for just a few minutes. I'm just going to let you know what COD offers, since COD is our home product here. We're going to just quickly talk about the COD monitoring report. We have the counseling report, and we have actual disbursement list report and the school account statement report you could use. You don't have to use those reports, but they are available to you. Session 2, my colleague Wood Mason is talking about some of these reports and some enhancements to the reports. You can go to that session if you like. And you can also find additional information about these reports in the COD Technical Reference Guide, and Volume 6, Section 8 in the COD reports, and Volume 4, Direct Loan Tool Reports. That's available as well. And there's also a COD hands-on session. Has anyone done that yet? Gone to oh, excellent. There's an advanced session. So if you want to have some more experience with these reports, you can go out and you can go to the COD hands-on session, to the advanced session, and go take a look at these reports if you would like. So let's take a look at these reports. Let's go to slide number 12. We have the COD school monitoring report, and it's an important tool to help schools identify potential issues for timing of reports. You know you need to be able to report within 15 days for a disbursement, and this report is there to help you evaluate the disbursements, and you can use that report. Or if you make an adjustment to a loan on a disbursement, this will also help you. Let's go on to slide number 13. We have counseling report. If you use studentloans.gov, you can run this report, and this will allow you to identify students who completed entrance, exit, financial awareness counseling, and/or plus loan counseling. And this is a report. Why would entrance counseling be important? You better not be dispersing for first-time borrowers unless that entrance interview happens, right? And let me tell you, this is a finding in a program review. Okay, so you want to make sure that this is in check. And let's move on to slide number 14. And we also had the actual disbursement list report. And this is for, includes, and I have to read this because I have not run this report. It includes booked, unbooked, and future dated actual disbursements and adjustments, provided they are created within the reporting period. Any actual disbursements that's in review status and will not appear on this particular report. So you can use this to help you. So you have several reports, but also a very important report, which is on slide 15, is the SAS report that you get every month. And this is for your monthly reconciliation, which you should be working with your business office. Very important. Monthly reconciliation you must be doing, required, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing your monthly reconciliation and you're getting that done. You do not want to let that sit. It's really hard the longer. Well, first of all, you need to be doing it, but the longer you wait on this, the harder it is to reconcile. So let's move on to slide number 16. And there's other things you could use. If you didn't want to use those reports, you might have other reports within your own software system that do the same thing that you prefer to help you with your own software. You could use vendor reports. You could use the self-assessment in NASFA. You could use our FSA assessments, and I'm actually going to go live in a few moments and show you the FSA assessments that you could use. Do I have any ED Express users here? Okay, I got a couple of ED Express users. We had the ED Express on my slide number 17. Now, ED Express has two reports. We had the ED Express list reports, can be used to monitor DL processing for resolving rejected edits and reconciling. And then if we go on to slide number 18, we also have, and this is a mouthful, the schools report, list reports, ED Express only, disbursement measurement tool report. Now this is the report that you can run, and you can set it up, and it allows you to set up a time frame where you can say, this is the time that the student submitted the report from the time it is booked, and you can say, oh, and it'll give you the average of how long it took for that loan to be processed. And you could say, I want those loans to be processed within a 2-week window. And it'll give you the average time it took for that loan to get done. And it could tell you, ooh, it took 3.5 weeks for these loans, for this group of loans to be processed. And you could say, ooh, it was supposed to be done in 2 weeks, and it's taking 3.5 weeks. What's slowing it down for these group of students? And you could look at that group of students and say, where is the system breaking down? And it gives you an opportunity to try to figure it out and fix the issue. So that's kind of a cool little report, and it gives you just a window of opportunity to see what's going on with your process. So that's kind of a cool little report. And slide number 19 is all about documentation. No matter what type of reports you decide to run to determine how your reporting is going, okay, those are the three topics: reporting, disbursement, and reconciliation. No matter what it is that you're doing, what reports you decide to check those three areas, self-assessment in those three areas, whatever reports you decide to run to make sure they're running okay, you need to document it somewhere. And say, these are the reports we decided to make sure that these areas are working okay. And this is how we're going to fix the problem if something is identified in your policies and procedures, is what I recommend. Does everybody get that okay? Does it sound complicated? It really isn't. All right? And you're probably already doing this. You're probably already looking at these systems and fixing it. And let's look at slide number 20. Hey, Mike, I'm going to let you take the computer, and I'd like to go look at the assessments. Mike's going to take us live. How many of you are familiar with ifap.ed.gov? Ah, yes. It's my favorite place. So if you go to ifap.ed.gov, and you go to Tools for Schools, how many of you have gone to Tools for Schools? Yes. And if you go, I think it's like the 5th bullet, you're going to go, I might be wrong on that, but you're going to go to the FSA assessments. Whoop. Where did we go, Mike? Oh, there's no internet connection? Did we lose the internet connection? I'm so sad. It died. Well,
I got it.
Oh, he got it. He saved me. He's so cool, calm, and collected. All right, so we come to the FSA assessments, and you will see that we have several areas. And we're going to it goes into 4 different areas. We've got students, schools, and campus-based programs. So you can look at any of those areas, and it's a self-assessment tool. It's an area that helps you look at your Title IV operations. So you're prepared for any type of program review or an audit, or it's a great resource tool should you need to find information from the Federal Register or the handbook. It's really great. Or any electronic announcement. So we're going to go to direct loans because we're talking about direct loans. And if you look at the direct loans, you'll see that we have an area called the activity bar. The activity bar will tell you that we have several activities. You'll see the quality assurance is one of them. So we have an activity based on the quality assurance process. So we're going to take a look at that in a minute. We also have additional links. We have additional links to the handbook. We have links to the electronic announcements. We have links to all different related areas to direct loans. And then we have a box down below that's in 3 sections. And it's the walking, talking Code of Federal Regulations. How many of you have the Code of Federal Regulations by your desk? You don't? Okay, that's where all your regulations are. Now, what's really nice about this, and this is in all of the FSA assessments, in all of those topic areas, and it's linked to all of the regulations for you, so you don't have to go looking them up. And if you're always wondering, like, where's verification reg, where's conflicting data reg, or where's a direct loan reg, where's a default management reg, you can just go right here and it links it to you right away, and it's all by topic. And if you open this up, it goes in order of the federal regulation for you. It's all visual, and it's really exciting. So if you go here, it goes from the federal regulation from top to bottom, and you can go right down and take a look at it, and it's absolutely fabulous. So this is very, very handy to you. So let's take a look, Mike, and let's take a look at Activity 1. So if you look at Activity 1, there's a direct loan reconciliation worksheet. So if you wanted, you could use this reconciliation worksheet if you didn't want to use the one that's in COD. Or if you didn't, well, you should use, I would recommend you use the one in COD. But there's another one that you could use here, or you could design your own. You could also look at activity number 2, which is the quality assurance activity. And let's go back, and we're going to open up the activity 2, and that provides you the links to all that is related to the quality assurance regulations. And it gives you all of the regulations right there. And then section 8 is a policy and procedure guide. What's nice about the policy and procedure guide in the assessment is that it's designed just to tell you what is the minimum requirements for policies and procedures. I know some of you have, there's the NASFA guide, which is great, but we designed it so that you just only knows what is required minimally. It's great to check it against what you already have, just to make sure that you meet the minimum requirements. So it's a great little check and balance for you. So I'm really happy with that. So here's the quality assurance component. And all 3 pages are showing, which is kind of neat. It's just displaying a little different. And you could take this and use this to help you when you're looking at your policies and procedures and making sure that you have all of the components you need for the quality assurance process. So let's move on to slide number 23, Mike, if we could go back into the process. So you really want to make sure in your policies and procedure, now I'm being redundant, that you have your policies and procedures open, that you identify, you add your regulations, you add what reports you're going to use for your quality assurance process to make sure that you're for reporting, right? Can you remember reporting? Reconciliation and disbursement. You guys got it. I'm so proud. Okay, so slide number 24. So we looked at slide 24 is the FSA assessments, which I showed you. And then slide 25 is an action plan. Now, an action plan for the FSA assessments, or it is good to have for either the FSA assessments or any report that you run. If you find a problem in any report that you run for any area, you should have an action plan. That continuous improvement in that cycle for the quality assurance process I told you, if you have a problem, you need to make sure you're fixing it. Because if you don't assign it to somebody, if you don't identify it, is it going to get fixed necessarily? Not always, okay? So make sure you have some kind of action plan. You don't have to use what I have here, but just make sure you have some kind of action plan, some way of identifying what's wrong and making sure that it gets fixed so it doesn't get lost, okay? That's really, really important. And that you identify in your policies and procedures, you have a way of tracking that when you identify there's a problem or enhancement that it's getting fixed. And let's move on to slide 26. Compliance, that's very important. And we're almost done. Compliance. Now, there's nothing in the reg that says you have to have a policy and procedure on the quality assurance process, but it only makes sense. It's the best way to do it, because if you were to leave, would anybody know how your quality assurance process is working? No, right? So put it in your policy and procedure. Make it clear so that the next person knows what it is you're doing and how it's getting done. And let's move on to slide 27, because this is what your reviewer or your auditor is going to ask you. These are the questions they're going to ask you. What tools are you using to meet your quality assurance process? How do I know this? Because this is what I got from their guide. They're going to want to know, what are the tools you're using? What are the reports you're using to meet those 3? The reporting, okay, the dispersing, the reconciliation, to make sure that you're keeping your cycle going and that you're making enhancements, that you're making your process better. What is it that you're doing to make sure the data that you're sending to the department is accurate, is good, has quality data, okay? You need to be able to show that to them, provide evidence that it is being done, okay? That's very, very important. And let's move to slide number 28. When you signed your PPA, you signed that you knew about this and that you were going to do it. So your president signed that he or she was going to do this, and so did the director. So you made the commitment to this. So just so you know, there was this other layer of commitment to this QA process. And slide 29 are the resources, and I put the old resources here so you knew how long this has been around. This has been around a long time since the direct loan program came into being. So this requirement has been here for a long time. Just the last time that we provided guidance was back in 2013. So I just wanted to provide that history for you, but really the guidance you want to go to is 2013. And let's move to slide number 30. And now I just want you to know that I am here. I'm at the SULA table, although I have a lot of sessions tomorrow. So I'm only there at a short window towards the end of the day. But if you have questions, you have my name, you have my email. I want you to email me. I do get back to you, I promise. I'm very good at that. But if you have questions, please, let's take a few minutes and let you go to the speaker, and then I can let you go. I promised you it would go fast. Does anyone have questions about this? I knew it's not really too complicated. I will stay here at the end, so to answer your questions if you want to come up and speak to me individually, because we do have time for that. So I want to thank you all. I appreciate it.